All right, one final look towards Donkey Island. It is Tuesday morning, and the thought is by probably late tomorrow, that's going to be underwater. So they got out of here just in time. Yeah, what an effort, man. What an effort.
We're off. What a way to start a Sunday. We on our way to do some work to save the donkeys. Thank you, honey, for helping to save the donkeys.
Fingers crossed. So far, so good. It's moving, Kel. All right. Now you're making me look bad. Stop.
You guys just don't let it fall.
Okay.
And we'll scoot you a hair more. Get it all the way to your ramp. Yeah, 3 inches and then back to me. No, they're gonna do the work. There we are.
Now forward or no?
Yeah.
Over is what we're doing.
Yeah.
Oh, I got
Hold on. There is a nose and tail on it.
I'll cut it, make a new one.
No, hold on. Go ahead.
Come on down.
Go ahead. I got it. Good. All right, you're good right there. Oh, no, one more piece. Over in the middle there. There you go. Done. Good.
Just having a really kind of curious deja vu moment here. I guess that's in contrast to what George Carlin called Vujade, that I've never seen this before. All right, look at that. This is not what we came up here for today, but it is curious. We were able to walk through this tunnel that's tunnel 3, the longest tunnel on the Yosemite Valley Railroad. And that's not why we're here today, but I thought I did want to come up since I'm in the area. I thought I wanted to come look at it again. I was thinking this might be underwater by now, but not yet. So as you can see, this is there's still a whole lot of runoff needs to come down from the Sierras to fill this lake, and they're not expecting it to fill this year because we're in yet another drought in California. I wonder how many years we're going to call it a drought before we just say, hey, it's just the new normal. Well, not a lot of, shall we say, human activity today, but an abundance of activity by the crows up on the spillway here. It's another windy day, but that's not really news anymore, is it? It's curious. In the last 3 months, and I'm not even exaggerating, in the last 3 months, I think we've had one day where we didn't have winds here in Central California. And I don't mean just minor winds, I mean really strong winds. Which is frustrating for a couple reasons. One is I want to go out there to Donkey Island, which is why we're here today on this, to make this video. And so even though the winds aren't cooperating, the crows definitely are. And let's just kind of launch right into our story, which began, from what I remember being told anyway, began late last year. And the story told to me by a few people, but it all began with a gentleman, a local gentleman here by the name of Kenny Shepard. He runs a speedway not far from here. But with regard to our story, he's a bass fisherman and comes out here quite often to fish Lake McClure, which, by the way, he says is on most weekends is some pretty epic bass fishing, some of the best on the West Coast apparently. And while out here on one of those fishing excursions, he wound up over in that cove all the way across the lake, which is typically shielded from all the other boat traffic, skiers, so on and so forth, but also shielded from the wind. And apparently that's where a lot of bass like to congregate. And while fishing out there, he noticed there were 2 donkeys stranded on the island right there in the center of our screen. I'll see if I can zoom in a little more here. I really thought this would be at least 10 to 15 feet underwater today, but it's not. But looking at it at this distance, looks like they're still a little bit above water. Hopefully I'm not wobbling too much here. But as these waters rise and fall, these peninsulas can become islands, and islands can become peninsulas. In fact, we got a really good example of that right here in front of us. So as you can see in this point here, right now this is a peninsula, all connected to, well, let's just call it the mainland, or at least the surrounding land nearby. But as the water level rises, that's going to become an island. And so that's what happened out here on what we termed Donkey Island. And so these donkeys, what they do is they come out to the shoreline. From what we've been told anyway, they come out to the shoreline, basically getting out of the foothills to avoid predators. So they'll go up in the foothills, feed for a day or two, and then come down to the shoreline for water and shelter from predators. A lot of bobcats are up here, by the way. And so our 2 that we're going to talk about in this story came out to this peninsula, what was a peninsula at the time, and there may have been others with them, who knows. But as the lake, because here it is early spring, and as the lake is filling, they became stranded out there on that peninsula became an island, and they became stranded. Now, for whatever reason, as the lake was filling, they didn't go back to the main shoreline. We don't know why. Obviously, we can't know why. But what we do know is both are injured. Both had major significant injuries to their front legs. And obviously, they weren't going to make a swim for it. And based on what we observed, they really were not in much shape to be doing a whole lot of walking or climbing anyway. And all the land around that island there was pretty steep terrain. So I think they got out there. We're thinking they got out there, and they were in such a bad way that they just were not in any kind of a condition to go any farther. Now, Kenny coming out here and seeing them, they were in pretty emaciated condition. They were not in good shape at all. So Kenny started bringing them hay out here, just so they could eat. and then started seeking assistance from some government agencies, or at least trying to get assistance. And here's where it gets kind of interesting. It seems that the donkeys roaming the foothills here in this part of California, and coincidentally in Southern California as well, they're not considered wild. They're considered feral. The difference is significant in that, at least with regard to how this whole story played out. If they were wild, then the BLM and Department of Fish and Game, apparently they would have all gotten involved, but because they're feral, those two agencies are not allowed to get involved. Feral meaning that they were brought in here by in this case brought in here by the miners, and then those that escaped or were released began roaming out here in the wild. Even though they're feral, they began roaming out here in the wild and doing what donkeys do and making more of their kind, and now they're all over the foothills here. So after making quite a few phone calls and getting more and more frustrated, Kenny started seeking out those who might help out in the private sector. And eventually, with the blessings of the government agencies that were involved, he started putting together a group of folks who would be willing to help out and get this done. So my wife Kelly, herself saying a huge animal lover would probably be an understatement. She noticed Kenny post something on Facebook regarding what's going on, and basically let me know that, hey, you need to call Kenny and find out how you can help out. And by the way, Kenny, his wife Tammy, Kelly, and I, we go way back quite a few years. So I reached out to Kenny and said, hey, I heard about what's going on. He kind of gave me the update on what's going down, and I said, hey, I want to help out. How can I help out? So he immediately said, yeah, absolutely, we can use your help. So put me on a contact group, and the group started texting back and forth, and we started putting this thing together. I'm looking at something here. If you look where that grass line, see where the grass comes down the hill and it stops. And then you get a little bit of a bathtub ring there, and it goes all the way around the shoreline. I'm wondering if that water level is actually already starting to fall. Because there's no reason that if this lake was filling, there's no reason that grass line wouldn't already be down at the water's edge and as the water fills up. So I'm wondering if the lake actually filled up to that grass line, that grass died off, and now the water's receding. And the reason I mention that is because if that did happen, then Donkey Island would have indeed been entirely underwater. And so that same evening that Kenny put me on the text list, there was just a barrage of text messages going back and forth between a bunch of guys that I had never met before, but would find out were just some amazing individuals. They're just good guys, man. And we all just want to do the right thing, save these donkeys. Time was of the essence, man. We knew, according to what MID or Merced Irrigation District was telling us, and just based on some measurements we took ourselves, the water was coming up about a foot a day. And when we first came out here, just to kind of make an assessment of what we needed to do on the island, there was only about 4 feet of island sitting above water. So we knew that it was crunch time. It was crunch time. And if we need a more affirmation of there once being a train here, here's what remains of one of the poles for the communication line. It's amazing how many of these are still around. But there I go again, off topic. Back to the donkeys. So that first night we organize our plan of attack, and the very next day Kenny and I go out, and Michael's there with us, and I'll talk about Michael here in a moment, but Michael's there with us, and we kind of get the lay of the land or lay of the island, kind of get to know the donkeys. And at this point the Merced Irrigation District had already put the barge out there that we would eventually use to remove the donkeys. Signs of civilization all around us. Lots of old concrete here. So from that meeting on the first day, Michael and I make plans to come back the following day and build the ramp. We knew that we were going to need a ramp to get up onto the barge from the island. Now, simple enough to do. Luckily, MID had some material we could use right up here in their boatyard, which we used. Basically, sandwiched those two together, secured them together, and we had our platform. Easy enough, right? Yeah, but nothing's ever as easy as it would appear, or as I like to say, nothing is as easy as it looks on paper. Donkeys, as we all know, are hooved animals. The ramp was made entirely out of wood. The main platform was 5/8 plywood, which Michael generously donated, brought it up with him, and we attached that to the top of the ramps that were supplied by MID. And we're good to go, so we thought. However, not knowing, because again, the water level is changing day by day, every day the water would rise, would put the barge that much higher. And we have two hooved animals with only 3 good legs that would be trying to basically walk up a slippery ramp to the barge. So we needed to do something different. I thought, well, I got an idea. Let's put some epoxy down, put some abrasive material and mix it in with that epoxy, such as sand. They have traction, right? Michael had an even better idea. Says, why don't we just roll on some bed liner? So the plan was cast. We were on our way. That was the end of day 2. Hey, they're waiting for us today.
Yeah, they know that island real small.
They're in the crowd.
All right, 2 boats coming out.
Yeah, we might.
There's a cleat down there
Yep.
on the corner. We'll do that.
And there's one on the front of that.
You want the front or this one?
That one's fine.
That was fine. All right, Kevin, that might come loose though, unless you loop it around this way. Well, is that corner, that knot? More relics of a past civilization. Day 3. We'll meet at the boat ramp here at McClure Point early. I think it was about 7:30. And day 3, we introduce a 4th character into the story, Kevin Foster. Kevin is he's a cowboy. He'd be upset if I didn't mention that first and foremost. I like to call him the philosopher cowboy. The guy, since getting to know him, the guy has some of the most interesting quotes and sayings. I should say some of the most thought-provoking sayings. of anyone I've met in recent memory. So I'm going to call him the philosopher cowboy, but a true cowboy. So Kevin joins us, and out we go to the island. And at this point, I think it's only fair to mention, I think Michael should get, if there are any MVP awards going out, Michael should get one of them. He brought his pontoon boat out every day and hustled, and he hustled, man, and we burned a lot of gas, and we probably abused that pour. We tried not to, but I'm sure we did some damage because we were moving some heavy material. We were moving 2x4s, plywood, all the tools, all the fasteners, and at one point we even made at least 2, maybe 3 trips of hauling out some pretty doggone heavy and rough handling metal corral fencing that we pieced together up on the island. So we put some corralling together for the donks and quickly put our ramp down, put up some railing around the ramp so the donks couldn't escape or fall off the ramp, and shortly after that made our first attempt to get them on the barge. Yeah, it failed. Epically, it failed.
My grandma in a wheelchair can get up.
Yeah.
Kick the bottom for me. Straight up. No, with the stick. Kick this. Give me. Yeah, just sit down now.
That's why I wondering, what do they build before it's met? Good news is you still have one level path right here. It looks like my wife said that I'm trying to show off.
I'm sorry.
I'm not doing a good job.
You're all right. I don't want to. Let's see how it feels. Get that plate
Dude, she's got that blood.
You want to keep your hands on it.
Okay, operation move the donkeys onto the barge. It's a team effort.
Operation Trek.
All right,
Don't
Kenny and
kick.
Kevin are gonna push them towards us.
Don't kick my girl. So good.
Oh, it's working. They're pushing them.
She's moving. He's not. There he
Well,
goes.
he's a little slower.
Yeah, there he goes. There we go.
Come on, Jenny. Come on, Jenny. There you go. Come on.
Let them hang out like that, and then let them feed up and down there.
You're gonna walk that way. You're gonna come in here. You're gonna walk up to the gate that way. I was afraid of that little. Yeah, that was
Looking at going under too.
It seems that donkeys, much like dogs, if they're not sure of their footing, they're not interested in going. And that ramp, even with that epoxy coating that Michael put on there, again, they're hooved animals, right? Yeah, they couldn't get any traction. And once they lost trust in their footing, it was a wrap, man. They were not gonna go on that barge. At least not on day 3. And so before leaving the island on day 3, it probably happened in unison where Kenny, Michael, and myself, we were the builders, man. We weren't the cowboys, we were the builders. So probably in unison, we looked at Kevin after our epic failure getting the donks to use the ramp, that we were proud of that. We built that so carefully and really thought it through. But we're not cowboys. So we probably all looked at Kevin at the same time and with that look on our face like, well, now what, cowboy? But then Kevin, and what I would learn would be classic Kevin style, he had already thought it through, had a plan. So probably before we even left the island and took the boat ride back to the boat ramp, he had a plan and let us know what we needed for the next day, which would be a very big day. So we met at Lowe's early on day 4, picked up the things that Kevin said we needed. If we're proper cowboying, we're going to need some rubber mats to put on the ramp. I hope that, man, it is so windy right now. I hope that's not totally blowing out the mic here. We needed basically some blinds to put on the rails so that when they're approaching and climbing the ramp, they can't see off to the side. So we picked up some visqueen to throw over the sides. And again, another big box of fasteners and a freshly charged drill. Earlier in the video, I mentioned having a deja vu moment. If you look at that small pontoon craft right there, just beyond it, you see that marker. And just below that marker, just beneath the water, you can see the tip of a little piece of land. Well, the dark water between that and the shoreline, that's the old Yosemite Valley Railroad. So at this point, my wife, again, the huge animal lover, she'd grown tired of hearing about our adventures and decided that it was time to clear her calendar and join us. So on day 4, she was right there in the trenches with us, in the trenches, in the water, on the rocks, sharp rocks, by the way, and doing her best to help out, and she helped out quite a bit. She was a big player in getting that ramp put together where they could walk up that without slipping. And as you're going to see throughout this video, most of the video was taken by her on her phone. And we definitely wanted to document this. This is obviously something we're all going to remember for a lifetime. So the video, honey, you did great, and you made this video possible. And again, thank you so much for your help.
I don't know if I should loosen up those 2x4s so we have a solid panel that slides through. We've been clapping.
Wow, from this angle here, you can really see Donkey Island. And again, I think it actually went underwater and at one point, and now the water's receding again and it's back above. Sorry for the shaky footage. I'm really getting blown around by this wind. So day 4, we get that rubber matting put down on the ramp and secured. We then run the visqueen, which we use as blinds on the railing on each side of the ramp, so that the donks, they can't see out. All they basically see is a tunnel from the island to the barge. They don't see any way of escape. And not only that too, that just, if for whatever reason they were to fall against the railing, they're not going anywhere. And fortunately, though the water had continued to rise, we were able to move that ramp to a different part, to a higher point of the island, so that the approach from the island to the barge wasn't any steeper. There was still a little bit of an incline, but it wasn't that bad, fortunately. We got lucky. So with the ramp and the blinds in place, we were able to basically corral the donkeys using that modular metal corral fencing I was talking about earlier. We're able to move them around, maneuver them around, get them towards the ramp, and then secure the corral behind them. And at this point, that's where Kevin had to do some real cowboying, because there were no other cowboys on the ramp, or I should say on the island with Kevin. We became kind of fill-in cowboys. Now, Kevin had some real concerns here. Keep in mind, both these donkeys were injured, and he did not want to have to get real physical with them. You know, not only that, they're dangerous. They can be very dangerous. Even when they're injured, they can be dangerous. But at the same time, they're already in a really bad way. We obviously did not want to, inflict any other injuries, obviously unintentionally, but nevertheless, an injury is an injury. And so when you look at that whole chain of communication with anyone that we needed to discuss our operation with, again, I should mention that one of those was veterinarians working for the University of California. So basically, they gave us their advice and their input on how we should handle the situation, and obviously, everything was done accordingly. But as it turns out, Kevin knew how to handle it. The man knew what he was doing, and it went very, very well. And what I mean by that is, didn't have to rope them, lasso them, none of that. We just put that corralling behind them, and then what we did then was get some plywood paneling. I think we have some video of that behind them, and more or less just kind of gave them a good shove and moved them up the ramp. And again, now that ramp looked like a tunnel and they couldn't see any way out, and their only point of escape was to get on the barge, they begrudgingly did it, and they did show that donkeys indeed can be stubborn, but they did go up the ramp. So without injury, and success was ours.
Good. Good.
Okay. Coming.
Yep, he's coming. He's coming.
Then when he's about to be in, you better run to the gate.
He 2 feet, just, and no, he still has back feet on. He still has his back feet. Go. Good, you're there. Woo! Yeah! Good going. We are in.
Yeah, well, they're the ones that let him out last night. They let him
open?
out. Oh yeah.
Because there was another boat too. There's a Malibu with them, and they got real mounted.
You're pretty limber there, mister. Get forward. On, keep that right there. Let it rest. Let it rest. Go ahead.
I got it.
We're on our cheater point. We're good. Look at it.
They fall back when they're on, though.
I gave him that one. Yeah.
That's a pretty amazing piece of engineering. once on the barge. They're in nice little comfy accommodations, had a good soft bed, 2 big buckets of water, and at this point, the water could rise all at once because the donks were safe. We weren't done yet. We had to get them back to the ramp, but at least they weren't going to drown. At least they were safe from any predators that might have gone out to the island to get them. So it was a good feeling, a very good feeling.
All right, here's better put Dan in it. Oh.
Stay right there, Kevin.
Okay.
They're very comfortable with us. So the plan is to go out and get the barge. Myself and Kevin will get on the barge in case they get a little bit upset or try and get out of this stage we built. And we'll bring them back over to the stage.
It is donkey rescue day, what day is this? 4? I think day 4. And we're out. They are on the barge. Today's just bringing them home. So we're looking across at Donkey Island. Right there in front of us, that is a Mariposa County Sheriff in front of us. That's it's a scuba team, scuba rescue team. And they're there for us, not so much the donkeys. And then in front of them is actually the Merced Irrigation District boat. So you can see it right there, right in the center of your screen. That's Donkey Island, what's left of it anyway. The water's been coming up about 1 foot a day. And right now it looks like the barge itself might be bigger than the island. So we're going to see how this goes today. The ironic thing here is the day we're going to float these guys back to the mainland. This is the calmest we've seen about it. This is the least amount of wind and the least amount of waves we've seen all week long. Oh, the irony.
For the first week, they were eating little bits of weeds and they cleaned all of that off. And then it got to the point, the last trip, the one before I fed them, they were with their noses like turning rocks and nibbling at things.
Yeah. It's crazy without the wind. It's even warmer.
Yeah,
it's gonna be a hot day.
Yes. And we're grateful for the wind. The last 2 days.
Yeah. So where's the wind? Where's that wind we've been complaining about? All right, and this is Donkey Island, and then our the ramp slid right in here. That was a project. I'll probably get some video of that later today. Interviews going on. That's Kevin, our cowboy, the closest to us. Here's what I really wanted to show you. So you see where the water line is right now. When we started this, when I was first out here probably 4 or 5 days ago, the water we were probably about this far out. Yeah, in fact, this outcropping right here. This is about it right here where I'm standing. The water was kind of right beneath our feet here. And you can see where it's at now. So that's how much the water's come up just in the last 4 days. So they're predicting that by the time the snow melt has all flowed down into Lake McClure, the water is going to be probably 20 feet above this island, or at least probably higher than those ramps right there. So therein lies the problem. but it's not a problem anymore. We got the guys up on the barge. All right, and getting hooked up and ready to go. Ready to go. And it is a beautiful day up here today. Again, this is the calmest we've seen it since we started this project over a week ago.
Yeah, they've rescued. A lot of people have a lot of years in animal rescue and can't say they've rescued a donkey off an island.
There's this
This is a big deal.
a YouTube group I follow that's actually this hat. They're called Adventures with Purpose,
Yeah.
and they do.
It is cool.
Yeah.
You know, I advocate visitors, and it's tough. Just right now. I mean, they deal with Monterey County has
All right, we're approaching the ramp, and there is our horse trailer. Horse trailer with cowboys waiting. So it looks like we're going to be building our ramp right on the boat dock here. It's about to get busy, about to get interesting. Oh boy.
Okay.
Get one more person.
One more person. Somebody up, please. We need one more person.
Push right here in the middle.
Yep. That way they don't pull back on you.
Shut the gate, Mike. Hold on, let him go. Yeah. Come on, Mike.
And they are headed to UC Davis. Headed to UC Davis. Bye, Jack and Jenny.
So the donkeys were safe. They were on their way to some of the, as explained to us, they were on their way to, I think it was UC Davis, the veterinarian facility for some very professional care. And the media had their story, and all of us on the team, we're happy, man. What an effort. What an effort. So, sometimes there's just not a better feeling than being in the company of good people who are all just taking time out of their lives to do the right thing. You know, I don't know that, I don't know that you could find better company sometimes, you know? So thank you all for allowing Kelly and I to be a part of it. We appreciate it, and yeah, friends for life, man. So we did good, and the donks are safe.
Fox 26. It's a rescue we've been following for weeks now. And now 2 feral donkeys are safe on solid ground and not on an island at Lake McClure in Mariposa County.
Fox 26 News was the only TV station there for the rescue. As reporter Alexis Gouveia explains, it was a major volunteer effort.
It all started with a Facebook post and led to a big group of volunteers on a mission to rescue the donkeys.
You asked if anyone's ever rescued donkeys off an island. Probably never.
Hi, babies.
You're out there on your boat by yourself and you're staring at these 2 donkeys, busted legs, water's coming up, and thinking, what the heck?
Wild donkeys ain't nothing to mess with.
I kept calling people and nobody would help, and for about a week, just total frustration.
Ultimately, it came down to a bunch of private citizens. From across the board, we were having Zoom meetings, phone calls, text messages, emails, sending pictures. And
so we set up panels, built the ramp, put all their food up on them, and just left them for 24 hours for them to get used to the barge and the ramp and just their surroundings.
It went perfectly. I mean, just according to plan, smooth. Didn't sedate them. There was no darting. I'm glad they're going to get the medical attention they need. They're not going to drown.
I always say if you can't find a blessing, be one. And this was a blessing today.
The 2 donkeys are now safe and will be taken to UC Davis for treatment. Reporting at McClure Lake in Mariposa County, I'm Alexis Gouveia, Fox 26 News.
It was just 3 years ago, another donkey was rescued from another island, or rather that same island, I think, at Lake McClure. We're told that the 2 donkeys who were rescued today will be reunited with her at UC Davis.
Wild donkeys ain't nothing to mess with.